welcome to a new edition of Today's Youth, and today we will be talking about yoga and yoga therapy. Yoga is an ancient practice of harmonizing the body with the mind and breath using physical poses, breathing exercises and meditation. We will know more about yoga in the following report.
Yoga is beneficial for the health in ways that modern science is just beginning to understand. Even though it has been applied with therapeutic intention for thousands of years, yoga therapy is emerging as a discipline in itself. More healthcare practitioners are starting to include yogic techniques in their approach to healing, and more yoga teachers give a therapeutic intention to their teaching. People who have never tried yoga before are starting to consider including yoga in their treatment plan. As science begins to document the importance of understanding the interrelation of all existing things, it looks to yoga with an intrigued eye, for yoga speaks unity in every word. As yoga techniques are researched and new data is gathered, it becomes easier for science and the medical establishment to understand and accept the benefits of yoga therapy. Yet, there is still not one consensual definition of the discipline. In order to arrive to an adequate definition and to come up with proper standards for yoga therapy, it is crucial at this early stage to properly address some delicate professional and ethical issues. On a psychological level, the introspection promoted by yoga is essential to the self-knowledge process that fuels psychic transformation. At the same time, it is important to educate the general public about yoga therapy's benefits and careful use.
Welcome back, everyone, and we're glad to be joined here at the studio by Shireen Hosni, yoga instructor and pranic healer. Thank you for joining us, Shireen.
Thank you.
Shireen, I would like you to tell us about yoga in general, yoga as a therapy, as a practice, a general overview about yoga.
Well, yoga it's a very ancient practice, and the aim is to be in union, the mind, body, and spirit. So basically, what your thoughts and emotions and what you're doing in your daily life is in sync. And the opposite of that is what causes stress, and well, stress causes all the physical illness that we suffer from today.
Right, so yoga is well known to relieve stress and so on. Would you tell me more about this?
Well, they say a strong body is a strong mind, and this is how it works. By starting first with the asanas, with the physical practice, you build strength and flexibility in your body and therefore in your mind, as well as synchronizing the breath and doing a lot of the meditation and breathing exercises helps you release your stress and your anxiety.
Right. Would you tell me what are the different types of yoga and the basic principles of yoga also?
Well, there's many different types. There's some that's really old, so really ancient, and there's some that just emerged recently with how it's opened up to the West.
We have a video here. I don't know if you can tell me more about this, and we'll go back to the question.
What do you want to know about the video?
What type of yoga is she practicing?
She's starting the practice. This is just at the beginning, doing some stretches to relieve any tension and to move the body. It says on the title yoga therapy, but there is a lot of things that happen. You can say yoga therapy, but what it is basically yoga as a practice is a therapeutical practice.
Okay.
And they advise it in a lot of cases to deal with especially chronic disease. But it's not, if you're having a heart stroke, you're not going to have a yoga session and that's going to help you. It's
Right.
more by, because it helps you relax. It helps you accept the situation, whatever it is. And this is one of the principles of yoga, is accepting yourself and accepting what's going on in your life, like no matter what that
No
is.
matter how stressful it is.
No matter how stressful it is.
So it helps you cope with stress better.
So it helps you cope with stress better, and therefore dealing with the chronic, basically, things like patients who are suffering from cancer, from diabetes, or who's going through addiction, or veterans who's having like post-stress disorder. They advise them to practice yoga.
Right. I would like to go back to the question of what are the different types of yoga and the basic principles of yoga.
The different types of yoga. So initially, when they started, all yoga is hatha yoga. That's the yoga, and all the poses that we do can fall under this. The different types then emerged in how you do it, how you mix those poses together.
Okay.
So you have Ashtanga, which is one of the oldest. It's 26 postures. It's a very vigorous
Ashtanga?
Ashtanga.
Okay.
Yeah.
This word is, what origin is the word?
Sanskrit, Indian Sanskrit.
Indian.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. And the most famous place of that is Mysore, India.
Okay.
It's a very
So yoga started in India?
yeah.
Okay, we would also like to talk more about the origin of yoga, but let's continue with the
types.
The types.
So Ashtanga is it's a strong, vigorous practice. It's a certain set of poses
Okay.
that you do them consistently every day
Okay.
for 6 days a week with 1 day rest. And from
So
that,
you wake up in the morning, practice yoga, or which is the best time of the day that you practice yoga?
it's best practiced on an empty stomach. So I would say the best time is when you wake up and before sunset, so before your dinner.
For how
But
long? Is it healthy to practice yoga on
It
daily
depends
basis?
it depends on every person. It might be
Half hour, 1
Yeah.
hour?
A class ideally is 90 minutes, so that's 1.5 hours.
Okay.
But you can. That's the best thing about it, is that it's very flexible. It's not
Okay.
like rigid that you have to do this, and if you can't do a 90 minutes, then you shouldn't practice.
Okay.
So when I started, there came a time in my life when I became from very active to like I couldn't do really like anything. So I would still do my 10, 15 minutes or 20 minutes a day, and build on in it. So even if I'm not feeling like doing any physical exercise or doing anything, I would start with a 10 minutes, 15 minutes asana and a 5 minutes meditation, and that's still good. So it's not, we don't mean to be very like rigid on you have to do this per day. It's like, no, you can do, if all you have is 10, 20 minutes, then go ahead and do that. Have a 20 minutes practice.
Right. What about the basic principles of yoga?
Do you want to continue the types, or
Yes,
are
yes,
you-
go ahead. Go.
So other than Ashtanga, which is a very famous, vigorous practice, it's for I would say it's for like, well, everyone can do it, but it's more demanding physically.
Okay.
And then you have Vinyasa, which is basically it's synchronizing the breath with movement, and it's more of a flowy practice. You can adjust it to be strong or slow, depending on how you feel, or an instructor can do that depending on the people around them, or like the class vibe. There is Yin Yoga, which is also one of my favorite practices, but not everyone is.
Yin yoga.
Yin Yoga. So, and this originated, it's when the Indian and Chinese mix together, they create the Yin Yoga.
Right.
It's more a meditative practice where poses are held for a longer period of time. And it's aiming to, rather than targeting the muscles and targeting the physical, it's more on the breath, on a meditative approach, and going deeper into your body and releasing any negative feelings that you might have. So there's so many different types. Now there is air yoga, there is acro yoga, there is swing yoga, there is so many. But traditionally, these are the main or the oldest: the Ashtanga, the Vinyasa, Hatha, Yin, and you also have hot yoga, which is practiced in a warm temperature, so more of a 45-degree.
Right. What about the basic types of yoga? Would you tell me more about?
This is the basic types of yoga.
Right. Okay. So we move on to the benefits of yoga exercises and yoga meditation on daily life, on daily basis.
Well, the benefits is a lot. If you're talking physically, it helps you build strength. And a lot of flexibility.
Okay.
And being flexible in your body, if you're practicing yoga off the mat, or if you're practicing the principles of yoga, then you'll also be flexible in your mind, in how you think, how you deal with the daily stresses of life, like being in traffic, stuck in traffic, or like having someone being mean to you because he's having a bad day. Yeah, that's
right. Is there a difference between yoga class and a yoga therapy session?
A yoga class, I would say anyone can go to a yoga class. For anyone can go to a yoga therapy. But if you're going for a yoga therapy session, then you're dealing with someone who knows exactly what you're going through on the physical and also on a psychological level. And it would be someone who's really experienced in helping you go through this. And it would be focusing more on psychological, I would say, or unless you're someone who's facing a fatal disease or a fatal illness, which it will be both. So yeah, a yoga therapy would be more specialized. So you'd go to a yoga therapist and say, I'm suffering for this, can you help me go through it?
What should be the qualities of a yoga therapist, in your opinion?
Interesting. It should experience. I think experience is one of the main things, and being able to build a connection with the person, and to genuinely care for helping. And usually that's the case. But experience, having a very strong, I would say, anatomical and psychological background or study.
Right. Is healing yoga designed for all ages and abilities?
Healing yoga, or you mean the general practice of yoga?
No, healing yoga. I mean, yoga used to heal certain problems or issues.
Yeah, it's designed. It's designed for everyone. So there's
any age, whatever.
Any age, any.
Starting what age?
Well, now there is kids yoga. I'm not expert in that. I don't do kids yoga. I find it, I don't know how it is. I found it really hard. But there is kids yoga
What
right
age could the children start practicing yoga?
As I'm saying, I'm not an expert on kids yoga, but I would say 7.
7, okay.
And it depends on the instructor. But for me personally, I wouldn't take anyone who's less than 17 in a class.
Right. Shireen, you're a yoga instructor and a pranic healer. Would you tell me more about a pranic healer part?
I've just finished the study of pranic healing. It's healing with energy. So it's using, we're all energy. Everything around us is energy. And it's a very ancient healing method, like the Chinese, like acupuncture, like reflexology, like all these ancient practices that aims to healing your physical issues as long as you're psychological, by cleaning your meridians, your energy channels, and getting rid of any diseased energy you may have.
What illnesses has yoga proved to be helpful in treating chronic diseases or whatever?
Okay, when we say treating, I'm not sure what
or helping out with.
Helping. It's proved a lot to help people with chronic disease. So
like
people who's having
diabetes,
hypertension, people who had like who suffered from addiction, people who had traumas in their life, and this is something that I've experienced personally. If you've been through a trauma and you found it really hard to deal with, yoga can be very beneficial in that. And that's basically by helping the person to cope with what they're going through.
Right. For some, yoga is a deep spiritual practice. For others, it's a form of relaxation and meditation. And for others, still, it's a fitness program. Can yoga help in losing weight also?
See, if you're going for, as you're saying, for some it's a spiritual practice, meditative. For some it's relaxing, and for some it's it's a simple fitness practice. And I think that a lot of people, when they start or when they go to a yoga class, it's the most attractive is the asanas, is that they want to start, they want to stand on their head or upside down. So you can use whichever type that suits you. If you want to lose weight, yes, it can help you lose weight by going to one of the more strong practices like an ashtanga or a vinyasa or a power yoga. But also, it can be very relaxing and meditative as yin yoga or restorative yoga. Or you can go to just a slow flow or do it after your gym. So it depends. Yes, you can adjust it to what you want or what you're going through at this point of your life.
Right.
But why it helps you lose weight is because it also helps you psychologically to know why are you eating. Is it because you're hungry or is it because you're bored? It's one of the main things is being mindful and living in the moment. So being conscious of your body and of your feeling. So, and a lot of us, we are gaining weight because we're eating, not necessarily because we're hungry. Sometimes people go emotional eating because they're stressed, they're depressed, or they're bored or worried about something. So would it help you lose weight? Yes. You're not going to lose 5 kilos a month like if you're going for a body combat, but you would lose if you're practicing every day at least half kilo per month.
Okay, so then we'll now go for this short break and we'll be right back.
بتطلع فيها تنور قلب الكل
الحب يكون هو لغتها والناس تستمتع بحياتها
والخير يزيد ويفيض ويغطي حدود الأرض.
I dream a world where no one hates to hold a grudge.
Da posto io una fotisi ogni allora
dove si vive per l'amore che riempie il tempo di colore.
Любить и жить то, что дается свыше нам. نحلم بالدنيا اللي يعيش فيها ناس في سلام، ناس يفكروا في المستقبل يشوفوا القدام. الحلم بيلمع بعيونهم مو فارقة للونهم ولا دينهم،
ناس قابلين كل اختلافاتهم عايشين مع بعض.
أحلم بمكان الحب بيطرح فيه ويملى. أحلم بمكان فيه كل اللي احنا بنتمناه
وما نتحججش بأي ظروف ونعيش من غير إحساس الخوف مع عالم واحد كل الناس بتعيش جواه.
I dream of a world where love steers everything we do. I dream of a world where everything we hope comes true.
No obstacles will stand our way, no doubt or fear to chase away. One world that does not think in terms of me and you.
Welcome back, and still with our guest here at the studio, Shireen Hosni. Shireen, what should people be aware of when practicing yoga?
What they should be aware of their body, of how they feel, of not being competitive, like very competitive, or they should go like do this or do that, and not being judgmental, just being kind to yourself, really. All what you need to be aware of is your breath, how you're breathing, how you're feeling in your body, and any physical limitations.
Are there any disadvantages for yoga?
Disadvantages?
I mean, for the practice of yoga itself.
No, it's if you're practicing it and you're taking it as a way of life, it's amazing how it can help you, and it can really change your life. The only disadvantage is if you're taking the shell. So if you're only taking the asana or the physical part of it, it's not a disadvantage. It's just you're just taking a little thing, and you should be going deeper, and that you'll gain way more benefits than just the asanas. However, if you're doing the asanas, it's not a disadvantage. You just get stronger and more flexible.
And how do you assess yoga's popularity today?
Yoga in Egypt or in
Egypt?
the world?
We would like to start first with Egypt.
It's amazing how it really became very popular, especially during the last 2-3 years. I mean, before, when I was practicing, like maybe 10 years ago, there was only one yoga studio in Maadi, and it wasn't. Not a lot of people knew about it, but now it's. I see a lot of people from different ages, from different demographic and different thinking that know about yoga, and maybe they don't know what it is exactly. A lot still think that we sit in meditation pose and not move for a few hours, but a lot are interested to try, and it's. I think it's really amazing how it went viral in the last 2-3 years.
Tell me more about yoga in, you told me about yoga here in Egypt. What about internationally?
What about internationally? It's the same thing. I think it's everywhere. It happens very similar to how it is. It starts very like slow, and then it starts to go crazy, I would say.
Right.
So the same happened in Dubai, where I used to live. There was only 2 studios for very long, and then in the last 5 years, it became all over the place, and everywhere there is, like with every like community, there is 1 or 2 yoga studios, and everyone is practicing. And I think that's how it went in the West and in America. It was the same thing. People start to know the benefits, and then they practice more.
Right. So now yoga started in India. Would you tell me how did it start, and from India, where did it move to?
It started in India as a religious and a spiritual practice. That was thousands of years ago.
Right.
And it moved to the West because a lot of travelers were going, and I think the expansion of the yoga came through the U.S. When it went to the U.S., people introduced it, and then they started taking it deeper and having more and more studies about it. So
how popular is it in the U.S.?
It's too popular.
It's very popular.
Yes.
Yeah. I've seen even yoga instructors here in Egypt from the U.S., American instructors doing it here in Egypt.
Yeah, there, and this is how. I think the first place here it was the instructor, an amazing instructor from California, and that's how they took a small studio in Maadi, and that's how it all started.
Right, Shireen Hosni, thank you very much for joining us, and all the best of luck.
Thank you.
Thank you, and ladies and gentlemen, that wraps up this edition of Today's Youth. Many thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more coming up here on Now TV International.